Wake Up with Patti Katter.
I love the show.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
I turn it on and turn it up.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to and watching Wake Up with Patti Katter. I am delighted to have Josh Felber on the show today, even though he's from Ohio. No, I'm just kidding. You know that I'm from Michigan, and there's always a little Ohio-Michigan fun rivalry. So, Josh, welcome to the show.
For sure. Well, awesome to be here, Patti, and just an honor to be able to share some great content with your audience. So.
Thank you. I'm happy about it. I follow you on Instagram and on your social media. You're always encouraging people who are watching this and listening. Josh is a serial entrepreneur. He offers motivation in your mindset. So, Josh, could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you grew up?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. For myself, I grew up kind of like you in a rural area out in the middle of Ohio, a little further out from Akron and everything, and got started as an entrepreneur as a kid, cutting grasses for people, baseball cards, stuff like that. And I started what I always say is I started my first real business when I was 14 years old. My dad had gotten us a Commodore 64, and so I got into computers, and so and then they came out with this new one called the Commodore Amiga. So it was like kind of like how like the PlayStations are today. That was like that computer way back when. And so I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to buy one of these. I had about half. I think it was around $750 to $800, and I had about half of that saved up. And it's like, there's got to be a better way to buy this. And researching, and I just was like, okay, cool. I can become a dealer, wholesaler, kind of whole thing. And long story short, got set up, and I was the first Amiga dealer, bought one, and in my area, the first Amiga dealer, and bought one. And all of my friends were like, oh, that's awesome. I want to get one. I was like, well, I can get you at a discount. And so that's kind of how it all started. And then started just going around with my dad to little computer meetings in the area and selling floppy disks back then, and all this other computer accessories and computers. So that was kind of my first dive into entrepreneurship, and then have since then owned about 15 different companies over the years. And now with my wife, we own a personal care business. It's a natural organic personal care business in the dental health skincare space, and one of the largest ones out there. So
what's it called?
Primal Life Organics.
Mm-hmm.
So we make natural dental care. She's a nurse, so she formulates everything, comes up with the whole ideas, and we have she started back in 2012, and just in the kitchen, and now we have 10,000 square feet, and we make it right here in Akron, and ship it from here, and ship it all around the world, and in retail and stuff now, starting to be more in retail everywhere. So,
what's the website? Can people order off the website, or do they have to go to a retail store?
Yeah, no, we've been direct to consumer since 2012. So it's Primal Life Organics with an S.com. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can order right there. And as well as, like I said, as we roll out to more and more retail stores over the next couple of years, then you'll find it more locally even too. So,
So you brought up the Commodore 64, and it kind of made me laugh. It brought back a few memories. Not that I'm as old as you, but no, I'm just kidding. No, I think actually we're probably about the same age. It sounds like a lot of things that you have done as a youth, I have been right there alongside with you. So did you ever dabble in making your own website? This is just kind of a side note question.
Yes. I mean, just as years kind of went on, and one of the companies that after I sold my one company and moved back to Ohio, a friend of mine was in the same business, in the merchant processing business, and we actually started to make and create the first online digital e-commerce websites way back before. So I had met somebody that other than AuthorizeNet, there was no other really payment gateways. And so a guy that I knew started a company called Skipjack Merchant Services. And it was theirs was the first really true encryption, where at that point, AuthorizeNet had been hacked a few times and things. And so theirs was super solid. So we actually created a whole team of developers and a sales team that was calling local businesses, selling them websites, and they would build websites and give them the ability to sell products online. And this was in 98, I think.
Mhm.
So
Wow. So
but
when you were growing up and you were talking about how you mowed lawns and you start your own businesses, I have usually asked my guests, what is the hardest trial that you've ever been through? And I'm going to ask you that a little bit later in the show. But I'm kind of curious. I want to know a little bit more about you as a kid. I usually don't dive in too deep here, but I just feel like I really want to with you, Josh. So, okay, how were you in school? What about, yeah, how were you in school? Because I noticed lately a lot of serial entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, they would say, you know what, I actually did really bad in school, but once I was out of school, I flourished because I could do what I want. So I'm just kind of curious about that with you.
for me, school it was there. I mean, it was fun. I mean, it was a smaller town, so I mean, I think our class was a few hundred people, so it wasn't big compared to a lot of other schools. And fortunately, I had great teachers during my journey for whatever. And during high school, it was great because they had a really cool business teacher, and so that's I think what got me interested in business to some degree, as well as I read Think and Grow Rich and Unlimited Power and Awaken the Giant by Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hill. And so those all kind of helped spark all that. And then during high school, we also had an investment class along that way. And that's where I learned the basics of investing. And I really enjoyed that. And at that time, back in the day, AT&T and USA Today had a competition that they sponsored, and they gave you like a fictitious $250K, but you traded stock live. They had like a call-in desk that you would call in and trade like live stock, but through your fictitious account. And obviously it didn't move the market when you would make trades. But so I ended up placing, my junior year, I think I placed either first or second. And then my senior year, I placed whatever the opposite of that. So, but that was out of 20 something thousand people. And I was like first in Ohio. And so I got a lot of PR and stuff as a kid around all that. But during school itself, I mean, I was just average kind of grade level B's, C's and stuff. And the classes that I really liked, I did well in. So my business classes, and we had a economics class, stuff like that. Those I really enjoyed. And so those I always had A's in and everything. But so kind of, just getting what I needed to have done. And, I focused more time and attention outside of that. I mean, I was in Boy Scouts, I was an Eagle Scout, that kind of thing. So.
Mhm. I was going to ask you about social media, and you mentioned that earlier when you were younger, you did have some social media around you because you're really great at social media. Your Instagram has over 100,000 followers, and you have the little blue check next to your name, which is not always easy to do. So I'm curious, do you ever get a little bit intimidated at all on social media, or do you just kind of post and ghost?
I mean, sometimes, it just depends on how I'm feeling. I don't force myself to like, oh, I got to post a video today talking about something. A lot of the content is usually family stuff I post, helping people, like book promotional stuff. I would always get the books, and a lot of people come on my show to help promote their book and everything. James Altucher. So and I mean, when I was a kid, there was no social media. The only social media was newspapers. I was on a radio show a couple times, NPR or something, and local business and everything. So that was the max extent of social media back in the day. But now it's, a lot more prevalent. Try not to spend a ton of time on there from a consumption standpoint. It's mostly focusing on creating value, creating content, and putting that out there, and hopefully it helps and connects with somebody, and gives them opens their mind or helps them through something. So,
And you talk a lot about family on your social media. Do you have your kids working? How old are your kids? Without giving too much information, I don't like kids being.
No. Great question. So we have 3 kids. Our daughter's 12 and our boys are 10, and so we've homeschooled them the last 4 years. So we homeschooled them way before all this craziness happened and everything. But one of the big things that we've created curiosity with them. So years ago, I was like, after I had owned a bunch of CrossFits, and our daughter was born and our boys were born a couple years later. And I was like, man, how to work in here a lot of time growing these. You have the whole balance thing. And it's like, well, how do you actually balance? When you're balancing, I always kind of think of the teeter totter, like when you're a kid and you're trying to really struggle to keep the other end up and you don't want it to go down, and whether there's somebody over there or not, or, and it's always a struggle to kind of balance. So I was like, well, why not integrate? So like, why not involve them in everything that we're doing, and, and which will create curiosity and education for them and all that. And so that's what we started to do. And so we brought them to a lot of events, several years later when we started traveling with them and everything. So we would bring them to events, and to the point where they would just go usually hang out with our nanny or something. And then we would meet up with them at the end of the day, to where now they're older, to where a few years back when ClickFunnels was first down at the Orlando and did their event in Orlando, I brought them down there when Tony Robbins was there, and they participated and was in the event. And, one of kind of the stigmas is about homeschool is like, oh, no social aspect of it for kids and everything. But what's funny was ours are always social and outgoing. They'll ask you a million questions. But when they were there, a good friend of mine, Chris Record, he's been doing a lot of entrepreneurial focused, uplifting, like kind of focused raps and everything. So before they went to that, they started listening and hearing these, and they started creating all their own raps and putting them out there. And so then when they were down there, I introduced them to Chris, and he's like, oh, why don't you guys come up? I'm going to rap the ClickFunnels song and all that. And they knew it. So they went up on stage in front of like 3,000 people and rapped in front of everybody and did that whole thing. So they enjoyed it. But bringing them around to these different events, I think is huge. And you had asked me about kids and businesses and all that. And so naturally, kind of out of the whole process, our daughter wanted to, she's like, Mom, why is there not healthy products for pets like you guys make for humans? And so she started doing research and came up with some variations of the formulas that we make for Primal Life Organics, but for pets, certain ingredients that you couldn't use and things like that. And so she makes like all natural pet cleaning products for the teeth, and products that help them relax, and different things like that, that she sells on her website, Paleo Pets. And our boys had started a fidget spinner business a couple years back when it was hot, and we're selling them off a sales page that they created and everything. And a year or so ago, about a year ago now, they were like, hey, we want to do another business. And I was like, well, you got to find something that doesn't have, you don't have to worry about inventory. You don't have to worry about employees and everything. And so they love gratitude. And I meant to throw their t-shirt on today. I totally forgot when I walked out the door, but they have these t-shirts and hats and things that have gratitude quotes on them. And the company is called Gratitude Gear. So gratitudegear.com is their website.
Oh my gosh.
And so they have all kid sizes, adult sizes and everything. And it has all kinds of awesome gratitude quotes and everything on there. And so, but they don't have to worry about the fulfillment. They just handle the marketing side of it. And so they have their social channels that they post on and everything as well too. So just from the curiosity and bringing them and integrating them in everything that we do, they naturally were like, oh, I want to go do this. We've never been like, oh, you have to go start a business. That's just a natural progression that they've focused as they've grown up.
I'm going to have to get them on my podcast.
They've been on a handful of them. So
wait, I'll talk to you about that later. That would be fun. So my kids were also homeschooled for a long time. Almost, my oldest daughter graduated from homeschool, and it's true. Most homeschool kids I know are over socialized, and mine have never been shy. So
right. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of great opportunity when you homeschool.
Sure.
So the question I'm going to ask you is, can you recall one of the hardest times that you've had in your life, and how did you overcome that trial with triumph?
Yeah, no, good question. For me, one of the goals. So when I was, like 14, 15, and I was reading Tony Robbins and Think and Grow Rich and all that, I started to write down like all my goals and what I wanted to go, and kind of how he has you kind of block them out, personal and financial and travel and everything. So one of those was to be a millionaire by 25. And so when I had sold my one company in the merchant service space, I was able to hit that. And so I had invested that and, kind of did that whole focus. Well, then the whole 2000, when the dot-com bubble burst, I had a lot of that investments in there and everything. And so ended up losing a good, huge portion of that. And at that time, I was really kind of like, oh, okay, identity was really connected to that. So when that went down, I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? How do I? And so fortunately, I had during that time as well as a business coach. He was one of the top business coaches at Tony Robbins' uh, coaching program and everything. And so that helped me work through it and kind of realize I'm not tied to money and money is not me. And it was, more about utilizing it as a vehicle to growth or to help or to create value and to help people in the world and everything. And so that was probably a tough time overall. And the other one was, but looking back to is like, okay, cool. God had other plans for me was, I've always wanted to go into the military and be in the SEAL teams and everything. And so after I had sold my company, I was 25 and I think was it? Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to go start doing. And so I started training and getting back in the shape that you need to be in to go there. And then ended up submitting and I had to have an age waiver at that time. I think I was 26. And so I got that approved, got everything approved and got my, I was in the delayed entry program and depped into and got the SEAL contract to go to BUDS and everything. And a good friend of mine did at that same time. We kind of were doing this together. And so then like 6 months later, I ended up blowing out my ACL water skiing. And so I pushed it off and got it fixed and like rehabbed it, ran a marathon like a year later and everything. And then resubmitted and their doctors just wouldn't sign off on, even though my doctor did, their doctors wouldn't sign off on the waiver I needed for my ACL and everything. So that was kind of a time that I was like, I was a little bummed out about it and stuff. But like I said, other plans, a couple of years later, I'd met my wife and everything and all that. And so if I would have went the other direction, it wouldn't have been in that same position now today.
Absolutely. So. I've definitely learned over and over that when one door opens or when one door closes, a better one opens.
Sure.
So, you have a podcast and you have a show called Making Bank, right? And I automatically assumed, which I never should assume, that it was probably like financial. And I was trying to go back and like figure it out. And you have a very great topic for your podcast. Making Bank is about the mental mindset, which is much better than money.
Right.
Which we talked about, you were really bummed because you lost some money, but you had that strong mindset. Could you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. So Making Bank started, I never really cared and wanted to be on camera back in the day. And I think it was the very first trip we took our kids. I think the boys were like 4, our daughter was 5.5 or something like that. And we went to Mexico and I had many years back connected with Grant Cardone and, Grant was like, hey, I'm doing this little tiny event. And this was, I think back in 2014 or 15, no, 14, I think it was. And, he's like, come on down. So we brought the whole family down to hang out with their family and a couple other people. And, he's like, oh, I'm launching this network called Whatever It Takes Network. And we need people to do podcasts. You should come on and be on it. And I was like, no. So Kay kept kind of like after me after we came back. And finally I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so, and they had some people that would help. And so that kind of got me going and what got the show first started. And we were coming up with names and we had like 4 different names. And I was like, oh man, Making Bank really like stands out and everything for what the direction that I kind of thought I wanted the show to go. And so that's what got it all kicked off. And it's funny going back and just seeing the initial first video interviews and everything. So I was on their platform for about 6 months and then they made some changes. And so I moved it off. We always focused mostly on a video show, but the audio was there and everything, but now we put much traffic between both. But the whole premise of the show is taking the top 1% multimillionaires, billionaires, people that have like excelled in their fields. And it's not just like the habits. There's a lot of stuff about habits and habits are great and morning routines are great. And I own morningroutine.com. And so there's a lot of good things there, but if I copy somebody's morning routine or habits, it doesn't equal that I'm going to be successful. And after a friend of mine's a billionaire and owns awesome companies in tech space and health tech space and everything. And he's like, you got to understand. And if you can understand somebody's mindset in the process and that journey that they went to get there and everything, that's stuff you can actually take and apply to get you, on that same path. And so that's kind of how it all came about in the focus of the show. And so we take the questions, I don't have set questions, but just like you, we just talk and as the path goes and just start asking the questions to really uncover what's worked for them and what has helped them that people can take and start applying and integrate in their life as well as their business. So it's not just a business oriented show.
I love that so much. I have a lot of successful friends, and I try to surround myself with those who are successful. And I think it's so important to know your mindset. And when somebody inspires you, you can kind of get to know their mindset and see, like, what can I do to kind of tweak what I'm doing maybe and change my mindset a little bit. And I love that you have the morning routine website too. I feel like I could talk to you forever. So morning routines are really important to me too. For a long time, I was doing my self-care at the end of the day, and I just was feeling ran down and burned out by the time that the day was over.
Sure.
And so a mentor of mine, he said, Patti, you need to put your self-care in the morning, and rearrange some things. And I tried it, and it was so great. And I still do that today. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, mornings are amazing. What's that website about? Are you running it right now, or is it just kind of holding the spot?
Yeah, good question. It's been it's not up yet, but it's been in the works. And so what we've done and started to do, we've been doing, is recording little snippets of top people and kind of what their morning routines are and everything. And so when it launches, it'll have a lot of the top people and what their morning routines and how they get through that and how it's helped them. And it'll be inspirational, but then tactical as well. And what people can take and apply. So
that's exciting. You need to get on that because I want to go there right now.
Thanks.
That's really exciting. Oh, Josh, thank you so much for being on the show. Could you go ahead and share your social media links one more time with us?
Oh yeah, for sure. Easiest is if you hit my website, joshfelber.com, you can see it here on the backdrop. But if you hit joshfelber.com, it has all my social links, but pretty much every social channel, that's where I'm at Josh Felber is where you can find me, except for Twitter. It's flip-flopped, but so.
Well, we'll also have all of the handles on the screen for those of you watching, and for those of you listening, you'll see in the show notes all of Josh's links. And Josh, thank you so much for being on the show. You're definitely an inspiration. I love your mindset, and I can't wait for people to go to your website and check it out. And I definitely cannot wait for your morning routine website to finish up. That's so exciting to me. You have no idea.
Oh, well, thanks. I guess I'll have to get a little bit more energy.
Yeah, you need to get on that.
The team to get it moving a little quicker. So
I'm
we just kind of been recording, and they're like, okay, we'll get to it and get it up there. But
it's so important. So for me, I've been a caregiver now for about 14 years to my husband, and morning routine is everything. Let me just say. So thank you, Josh.
Oh, awesome, Patti. Thank you for having me on the show. Honored to be here. And guys, anything I can help you guys with as you're watching this, feel free to reach out. There's a ton of free content. Pretty much everything on mine's all free content. So there's tons of free content out there for you. And just Patti did an amazing job. Make sure you guys rewind, listen and watch this again. Take those notes. And then the biggest thing is start applying that right now. Even if it's a tiny little step, start applying that tiny little step right now in your day, in your life, whether it's through your morning routine, even a night routine, the wind down at the end of the night, and to set up your next day for success. But just take those little micro things and start applying them. Don't look at it as a bigger, huge project that you have to, a mountain that you have to climb. Break it down into small, simple steps and follow that. And that's going to tremendously give you a big impact and move you forward in whatever direction that you're looking to go.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody, thank you so much for listening, and take Josh's advice. I know there's a lot of you out there who are struggling right now, and you're just kind of looking for something to grab onto for hope. Follow people like Josh. Birds of a feather do flock together. Thank you, everybody, and have an amazing week. And make sure you tune in every Friday morning to start listening to my new podcast.
Thank you for listening to Wake Up with Patti Katter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Follow Patti at Patti Katter on Facebook and Instagram.
Get social.
You can now watch Wake Up with Patti Katter on Amazon TV and Roku.
It's the only podcast I listen to.
Be sure to check out Patti's apparel line, The Patriotic Mermaid, at thepatrioticmermaid.com and on social media at The Patriotic Mermaid.
I love it.
Special thanks to Patti's content creator, Alicia Thompson.
Thanks for all that you do.
Visit thompsoncreate.com for all your marketing and design inquiries.